How come you never called us? How come I'm just finding out now that I have a grandpa? And that he's Pecos Pete from... Today on the Comic Book Report, Uncanny Valley, Volume 1 by Tony Fleecs and Dave Wachter from Boom Studios. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comics and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we are back in the world of Boom Studios, taking a look at a trade paperback collection I have been really eager to read. Ever since reading his work in things such as Stray Dogs and Feral, Tony Fleecs has been a name that I have been on the lookout for. When I heard he was doing a series roughly about cartoons and animation, I knew that this would absolutely be a title for me. And now that I've read this first volume, I can confirm that that was certainly the case here with Uncanny Valley. A huge thank you to those at Boom Studios for sending over this review copy in exchange for this honest review. And before we start that review, as always, I would also like to shout out our channel sponsor, Panel Bound Comics. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link to them in the video description, and if you see anything site-wide you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, The Comic Book Report, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's still one of the best ways to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's trade paperback review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume are written by Tony Fleecs, with art by David Wachter. The issues in this volume were published by Boom Studios beginning in 2024. This volume collects Uncanny Valley, issues 1 through 5. And finally, this is a standard size trade paperback collection with glossy print paper stock, a glued binding, and a total of 144 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first dedicated look at the front cover for today's trade paperback. This is a reproduction of the issue 1 cover for Uncanny Valley, and I think it sells the series quite nicely. We have our central character there at the front, surrounded by a cavalcade of animated characters, both heroes and villains. The title up top, along with the creators, and gracing the bottom of the cover, of course, we have the Volume 1. As far as I can tell, there's no subtitle for this volume, it's just a Volume 1. Transitioning now to the spine design, we of course have the Boom logo up top, along with the title of the series again, those creators I mentioned, and then a little numeral 1 at the bottom, signifying the Volume 1. I do like the color here we have. It retains a lot of the color we have on the front of the trade paperback, so there's some nice continuity there just for the overall cover design. And yeah, pretty straightforward trade paperback spine here. No real bells and whistles or art to speak of, but I think it's crisp, it's clean, it reads well, and looks good on a bookcase. And then for the back cover, we have some reviews and accolades, which I love to see, along with a description of Uncanny Valley, a little bit about the creators and what this edition collects, and down at the bottom, of course, we have some logos, pricing information, and things of that kind. We do have some art on the back of this book, which I love to see. We have some crows flying around on a particularly warm kind of sky. Overall, a really sleek design. I think it sells the collection quite well. And now for all you prospective collectors out there, I did want to do a quick look at this book's binding. So as we have with a lot of these paperback collections, we do have just a simple glued binding. I will say my binding is quite strong. I'm not worried whatsoever about these pages going anywhere, and while there was a couple instances of a little minor gutter loss, it wasn't anything substantial, and honestly, no complaints from me. Okay, and with that, we can go ahead and dive into the collection proper. Now, we do have a title page, a publication information page. We have another title page with the creators and things like that. And then we go into the Chapter 1, which corresponds to Issue 1 of this collection. We have these nice interstitial chapter breaks. We don't really have the covers between the issues, which I would have liked to see. No, rather, we have these chapter breaks, but rest assured, we do have the covers retained at the end of the collection by way of extras. But you'll of course get a better look at that later on in today's video. So what is Uncanny Valley? Let me go ahead and set the scene for all of you, and hopefully I can inspire you to check out this collection, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as I have. So this story picks up with a young man who has kind of ditched school to go along with some new, air quotes, friends to do some kind of adventurous shenanigans to try to gain acceptance. We have this kind of interesting day. We have this pastoral scene. The kids are basically walking over to what we find out is a bridge, and they're all daring each other to jump off. Well, all three kids land, and while two of them break their ankles by all appearances, our main character just falls into the ground in a perfect cutout shape of himself, kind of akin to a cartoon. He gets up completely unharmed, which is more than he can say for his peers. We then fast forward to when he's in the principal's office, and he's being reprimanded, of course. His mom is called in, and he is disciplined. He's going to be suspended, and his mom is just beyond exasperated at this. We find out he has had a couple odd instances like this. Not really that he's trying to get into trouble, but that kind of hijinks kind of follows him around. For example, we had him eating something really hot, and he swears that he had something like steam coming out of his ears. He's not really sure how to explain these things, and when he's at home, he is grounded. But he is finding a way to watch cartoons instead of doing any kind of schoolwork. And on one auspicious day here during the suspension, we have an aggregation of crows outside his window, and we find out that there is this threat. He's going to be attacked or kidnapped or something of that kind. But in walks a cartoon character that is Pecos Pete, which is a cartoon character within this universe that is very akin to someone like Yosemite Sam from those old Looney Tunes cartoons. Well, Pecos Pete comes in, and it's not before long that he's trying to save the day and save this young man that he reveals is his grandson. The grandson, of course, doesn't know what in the world is happening. He sees a cartoon in real life, and he's left just reeling, contemplating his ancestry. His mom is in the room as well, and the grandfather and grandson have to leave just to try to flee to survive, and the grandfather says, "Don't worry, your mom is strong, she'll be okay." The next we know, we basically are following grandfather and grandson. They end up at a diner, and they're trying to hash it out or talk about what's going on. We find out that normal people can't really see these cartoons. Maybe youngsters can, or people that have some kind of gifting, and that they're kind of among us, but that there is a cartoon-like space that they can occupy. But yeah, it's really interesting. We basically find out that they are all hunting for this young man who is a kind of chosen one sort of figure. In their pursuit, we have grandfather and grandson trying to get away from a character that appears to be a kind of fox, but is kind of akin to Wile E. Coyote. We have a scene where they have to run off a cliff, but not look down, and it has a very animated feel. And things like this proceed, where we basically find out that our character is part cartoon, and he's able to do these kind of reality bending sort of tricks or gimmicks. We have the classic like painting a hole or thing in the side of a bridge and being able to walk through it even though it's just a piece of paint or painting on a wall. We are introduced to another huge group of cartoon characters, something that looks like it came out of a Street Fighter analog, another character that's a flying fairy, something like Tinkerbell. These are all very, very good visual homages to a lot of classic cartoon and animated characters. I think parodying or just narrowly sidestepping perhaps copyright issues, but I love that this line that they draw where they are really recognizable kind of visual hints at these characters or suggestions of characters. This will definitely appease kind of golden age cartoon short kind of fans like myself. At any rate, the story proceeds, and it's basically grandson and grandfather trying to outrun these people that are trying to ensnare them. We find out, though, that the grandfather is actually working with the character we believe to be the primary antagonist, but that he's been deceived. And when everything looks as bleak as it can get, in comes the mom, who we find out knows about, obviously, the ancestry of this family, and that she ran away from her father after feeling the most realistic for a cartoon in those kind of cartoon spaces or world. She's been kind of a traveling person, going from one place to another as a drifter with her son. We don't really have any hints of who the father is at this point. We're introduced to this mechanic in the storytelling where there's kind of erasing white paint that can completely get rid of cartoons. And the climax of this first collection is ultimately the forces of good versus the forces of evil, and it culminates with our primary character using this white paint and jumping into it, believing he will survive the ordeal and basically escape the villains that want to use him for their own purposes. And now, presumably from here, we're going to follow his adventures with whatever happens after this moment, and maybe following his mom and grandfather as they try to search for him and fend off the forces of evil in this truly animated world. That's the rough synopsis for this volume. Of course, there are little nuances, twists, and turns that I didn't even address, but I hope you can enjoy that for yourselves as you hopefully read this collection. On the art side of things, I absolutely was stunned by the visuals in this collection. It is a huge selling point as well. While I really enjoy this writer, Tony Fleecs, I even had the pleasure of meeting him once or twice at my local comic shop. The artist here, Dave Wachter, I love the variety of art styles we get. We have a central, just really beautifully and ornately detailed art style, but then we have these visual homages and different cartoon styles with some of the characters, and how they juxtapose with the rest of the background and the world, I just think is really spectacular. It's really just a visual feast in this case, and their sense of storytelling, pacing, momentum is all very here. My biggest complaint with this collection overall is that we just didn't get more issues. I wish we had just more and more of this release, but I am happy to say that we have really a first arc here, and you do feel that rising action, climax, and then kind of resolution as we tease into that next volume. At the back of today's trade paperback, as you just saw, we had the cover art gallery, which was really nice to have those covers collected in here somewhere. And at the very back, we have a little tease saying, hey, this will continue in a volume 2, some solicits for some other great books from Boom Studios, and that's really what we have here for Uncanny Valley Volume 1 from Boom Studios. Again, I had an absolute blast with this. I really can't wait to hear in the comments who has read this series or been keeping up, and I think all that's left to do now is to give this book a grade. For one of the most zany but character-grounded comics I've had the pleasure of reading, The Comic Book Report is happy to give Uncanny Valley Volume 1 by Tony Fleecs and Dave Wachter from Boom Studios a B+. This was easily a well above average read that felt absolutely created for someone like me that shared my Venn diagram of overlapping interests. As a huge fan of the golden age of animation and comic books in general, this was a real treat. This story reads like a love letter to that golden age of animation while still having an exciting and unique central storyline. The characters are nuanced, enigmatic, and interesting, and I am left wanting Volume 2 more than I can even say. I think Boom Studios really has a hit on their hands here, or at least those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear all of yours in the comments section. Have you been reading Uncanny Valley? Have you read other works from Tony Fleecs or Dave Wachter? Let me know all about that in the comments. And lastly, a huge thank you again to those at Boom for sending over this review copy in exchange for this honest review, and for all of you for taking this journey right along with me. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to give this video your likes, comments, and maybe share it with a friend. Thanks everyone, have a good one.